If you're someone who's on social media regularly looking for help, tips, resources, inspiration in any way for help, trying to help you look better, feel better, ultimately improve your health in some way, I can fully appreciate sometimes that it is incredibly overwhelming with so much information out there of knowing what you actually need to do to take you to where you want to be. And one thing that really frustrates me on social media is some of the bullshit that I see trying to suck people in, selling them the dream, and then ultimately creating an unbelievable amount of disappointment for that prospective client or follower even. So in this episode of the Kirk Miller Podcast, I really want to remove 15 bullshit myths that you see on social media. Because I think there's so many coaches and influencers now selling this dream solution, right, with a fancy marketing line, whether it's written or whether it's verbal, to try and get some form of investment from that person as part of their business. And look, I'm not going to make no bones about it. Look, I have a business where people pay me, business leaders pay me to get them in shape, right? But one thing me and the team are ruthlessly honest with is telling them the truth about what is needed to deliver on their expectations of building a great body, superior mindset, and ultimately living with a phenomenal amount of confidence. We tell people the truth because I've been in this industry a hell of a long time. And unfortunately, no matter what you may have heard, like there is no dramatic quick fix to a phenomenal body, especially the longer you've been out of shape. But this is the opposite of what I see by certain people, and even some very sort of influential names just now, which I'll touch on in a second. So I'm going to share with you 15 of the most common bullshit myths that I see on socials, and just break them down one by one and tell you the truth based on all my years of experience and having been mentored by some of the best like coaches, mindset experts on the planet to sort of master my craft and merge it with my own style. Right, myth number one, and this is probably one of the most important. You don't need to train hard. How someone can say that is unbelievable, right? If you are trying to build a phenomenal body, right, and I'll talk about levels to phenomenal body and obviously different people's perception of what that looks like. If you're trying to build a world-class body, which people come into me, business owners, entrepreneurs are trying to get in, like not just okay shape, but exceptional shape, you need to train hard. I'm friends with some of the people with the greatest physiques on the planet. The one thing we all have in common is we consistently train hard. Might have our own different methods here and there, but generally speaking, we are consistently training hard month to month, year round. All right? But I just have saw certain things on socials of people contradicting that, right? There's so many influencers and stuff out there at the minute promoting these body weight workouts, HIIT circuits, all that sort of stuff. You're never going to build a great body doing that. And half the coaches and influencers preaching this don't even train like that themselves. It's just something different on social media to maybe capture attention. But if you think you're going to build a world-class body doing hopscotch and burpees and, body weight stuff all the time, then, it's just not going to happen. I think he's done phenomenal things in this industry, but Joe Wicks, for example, that's typically the type of workouts, that he preaches, these 15 minutes, these 20-minute HIIT workouts. I know for an absolute fact, looking at Joe's physique, he would lift weights. And you got to understand as well, some of these influential people that you're looking up to, all right, and I have so much respect for Joe, so I don't want to paint this negatively, but also I'm here to tell you the truth about what's needed if you are listening to this as a business owner, entrepreneur, wanting to build a great body, right? That's not going to take you there, all right? Because you got to understand that, say, Joe's market, for example, is, late 40s, 50-year-old women, I think in particular, who, if they've been sat on their couch and all they've been doing is eating shit and they've barely moved, of course, if you do these short workouts, it's better than what you're currently doing, all right? So it is an improvement on what you're currently doing. But that isn't going to change your body anytime quick. If you're someone who's maybe been in fantastic shape before in your later years, but just let work get in the way, or maybe you're in okay shape, but you want to go to that next level and build a phenomenal body, like you see some of our transformations, for example, right? That's not going to help you do that, right? You need to train hard. You need to lift weights with intensity with progressive overload, all right? And there are times that if your body is really stressed, you've got high work demands, you're sleep deprived, maybe from family or business. Of course, if your body's inflamed, the last thing you want to do is consistently smash your body to pieces in the gym, and have this no pain, no gain mentality, right? But that should only be during certain periods of the year that you're having to taper off and back off a little bit. Because if you are a business owner, listen to this, and you're having those weeks consistently where you're feeling stressed, you're feeling inflamed, you're feeling sleep deprived, then I question your project management and how you're actually planning your weeks and your days on a day-to-day basis. Because something fundamentally is going wrong there if we're constantly feeling stressed and inflamed, okay? And then another person I've saw preach this, again, I think he's done great things. I do think there's a lot more validity to a lot of the things he speaks about than even Joe Wicks, is James Smith. This is someone who I saw say that you shouldn't be training like smashing yourself in the gym. Also that it takes 6 months to build a great body, and if that personal trainer is still with that client after 6 months, then they've failed. Well, for me, he clearly doesn't understand the market that I work with, for example. The longer someone has been out of shape, and this may be you, if you've been out of shape for a number of years and you're carrying enormous amounts of body fat, right? 1, you probably need to train a lot harder than you currently do, all right? 2, it's going to take a lot longer than 6 months for you to see like that dream body if you've been out of shape for a number of years, especially when you're trying to condition that as part of your new identity, all right? So for me, again, you've got to understand whose market some of these influencers are targeting. Like, I know with James, for example, he coaches the beginners. He likes coaching the Sallys, as he's used many times before, right? And full respect for that. And of course, you've got to be very careful when someone's a newbie. And the last thing I'm going to do is smash a newbie, with brutally hard workouts, especially if their technique isn't on point to start with. But you're only going to get so far with your physique if, even once you've bedded in, that you just you're not really, really challenging yourself and pushing really, really hard within your sessions. Okay? That's only going to take you so far. So in relation to, do you need to train hard or not? It depends on how far you want to take your physique. Okay? All of my guys that work with me, their goal isn't to be absolutely shredded and have their soul life focused on a world-class body, but they want to look fantastic to coincide the success they have with their business and in their family. In order to do that, you need to train really, really hard. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is, with this, you don't need to train hard, right? Have a look at who's saying this, whether it's a high established influencer or whether it's just, someone that you regularly follow on social media. Have a look at their physique, have a look at their market first before you sort of accept the words that they're saying, okay? Because there is a place for everybody in this industry, but there's levels to this game also. If you are looking to build a world-class physique, right? Strong, lean, right? Whilst else being able to eat lots of food, you need to train hard. Because as I'll come on to one of the later points, most people want to eat more food and get lean. To do that, you need to train hard, okay? And one of the fastest ways to remove limiting beliefs, right, is to do something physically you didn't previously think you were capable of. That's how you expand identity, pushing past that comfort zone. And you're not going to do that continually having this, just stimulate, right? You need to push through those limits and then just watch the emotional growth with that. Because then you'll attach more pleasure to the habit and behavior of going to the gym and lifting the weights, okay? So you have to push yourself past that comfort zone and just notice how good that feels. And remember, you'll start eating better then when you start feeling better about the sessions. If I was to probably ask you, tell me a handful of your best ever workouts, I can guarantee you've took yourself to a place that before that session started, you didn't think you were capable of, or you just went to that next level and just left it all on the table. You gave 110%. But if you're just ticking over, expect an average physique, and more importantly, the longer you sit in that comfort zone, that will have a negative impact on how you feel and more likely your eating habits also, all right? Number 2, overly flexible eating. if it fits your macros and all this bullshit. Of course, like with all our clients, we are eventually trying to get to a place where you can be super malleable with your food. You can be really flexible. You're factoring in social occasions, eating out regularly, even like factoring in your Deliveroos, etc. I mean, I do these things regularly too. But if you are nowhere near where you want to be just now, right, the more flexible you want to be with your food, the harder it is to, get lean on more food. The slower it's going to be to take you to that body that you're aspiring to have, right? And sorry to burst your bubble here, right? You have to enjoy your food. I totally get that. But if you're being overly flexible, the likelihood is that you will end up factoring in too much added sugar, too much processed food. And the problem with these foods when you're trying to keep in too many of these foods is that you get less food volume per calorie, right? And when you're trying to create a calorie deficit, which is like essential to dropping body fat, you need to do that by eating as much food as possible to make it sustainable. Otherwise, you're going to binge. So, like for me, try and focus on as much real food as possible, minimizing added sugar. And typically, that won't fit into a ridiculously flexible eating pattern. All right? So just be very, very careful of coaches, influencers saying you can get in your dream shape with super flexible eating. Of course, we help our clients be as flexible as possible, right? But you have to pay your dues first, create structure, understand the benefits of good real food, no added sugar food or minimal added sugar food. Notice how good you feel. Notice how much more food you can eat whilst getting leaner. Then the leaner you are, the easier it is to manipulate calories and sort of, earn the reward of being a lot more flexible. I suppose number 3 ties in with that a little bit. The myth: eat all of your favorite foods and get lean, right? You can get ripped eating pizza every day. You can get ripped eating burger and chips every day. You can get ripped eating pretty much anything if you are in a calorie deficit. But the problem is, most people's favorite food are hyperpalatable foods that are processed, added sugar, and as I've touched on in point 2, you get less food volume per calorie, right? So if all you're doing is eating your favorite foods, you're going to maybe eat your favorite foods, but you're going to be incredibly hungry afterwards because your food volume isn't going as far. And not only that, if you're eating all of your favorite foods, which for most people are generally a lot more relaxed, processed, or with added sugar, then you're only going to end up binging. You're only going to end up binging. And not only that, your energy levels will be horrendous. Your digestive system will be horrendous. Your gut, and that will start affecting your mood, your focus. So if you're being overly flexible and you're eating too many of your favorite foods, especially early on in your fat loss journey, you're just lining yourself up to fail. All right? Number 4, build your dream body in 3 months. Right? This for me is setting people up to fail with false expectations. Look, I'll hold my hands up. I've also been that coach in the past that has said, the 12-week transformation. I even did an 8-week summer shreds program many years ago. Don't get me wrong, it was a phenomenal program for that type of program, but it was incredibly restrictive, very aggressive with training volume, everything. The clients at the time were eating was to the gram. It's totally unsustainable. Did it create rapid fat loss? 100% it did. But the problem is, the more aggressive and faster fat loss, the more unsustainable it is for that client, especially if you've never been in shape in your whole life for a consistent amount of time, right? So if you're being promised your dream body in 3 months and you are currently carrying enormous amounts of body fat, right? Even if you experience enormous amounts of body fat dropped over the first 12 weeks, which we certainly do for our clients too, but the key is we want them to maintain that, and that's what they get taught inside the program, then you've got to accept also that although you might have a pleasurable weight stat on the scales over 12 weeks, if you are buying into this dream body in 12 weeks, but it's not enough time to expand your identity, master and condition that new you mentally. If you haven't saw yourself as lean, confident, healthy, and you are maybe that person that during that 12-week period says, I'm on a diet, I have to train, then it's just a matter of time before you fall backwards. I can guarantee, I've been in this game a long time and I've even had this with previous clients in my earlier coaching days, that it's just a matter of time before you fall backwards, especially when your social life kicks in, your weddings, you travel, because anyone, if they say to you, eat every calorie to the gram, get all your sessions in, like to the minute, get your movement in, get your sleep and all that stuff, like without no social life, without factoring in your professional circumstances, especially if you're a business owner, listen to this and you've got business meetings, etc., and it involves food, the 12-week quick fix solution simply won't do that. All right, you won't have a clue what to do when normality kicks in back to your normal personal professional lifestyle. Okay, and just to follow on from that, even building your dream body in 6 months. Don't get me wrong, you can build enormous amounts of progress in 6 months. 100%. Our clients make like life-changing changes within 6 months, but it doesn't provide a solution for all seasons. If you are listening to this and you've never had one calendar year in your whole life where you have been able to like get and stay in shape and control your eating habits the majority of the time, right? It's going to take you more than 6 months to master that. Because think of the like emotional, physical and professional challenges you have and the motivations during January to March, April to June, July till the end of August, September to December. There's different seasons, there's different social events, there's different motivations, there's different like weather, light, daylight, all these different things that will influence your behavior patterns and just your mentality. So if you've never been in shape for a whole calendar year, it may take longer than 6 months for you to do that. Okay? So just be very, very careful when people are selling the dream over 6 months, right? That, they have some form of structure and system in place that is going to allow you to have solutions, for the remaining 6 months, for example, of that year. All right? Because I've done this so long, and if you've never mastered the art of getting and staying in shape for 12 months, sometimes it may even take longer than 12 months. All right? You can make great progress in 3 months, in 6 months. But remember this, one of the key things that is needed to master, right, being in shape long term is identity. You have to see yourself as lean. You have to mentally associate food in your mind that you're not on a diet, it's just how you live. Your lifestyle habits, your water, your sleep, etc., it should just feel normal. Because if you're getting resistance still after a 6-month period, right, to do these certain things, or you can't see yourself sticking to that training program or that eating routine during that 3 to 6 month period, then again, it's just a matter of time before you fall off it. All right, it has to be sustainable and complement you year round for it to stick. All right. Number 6, you can turn fat into muscle. They're two completely separate things. You're either building muscle or you're burning fat, right? You can't turn like fat into muscle, okay? So if you're carrying a lot of body fat just now, just accept that we need to create a calorie deficit by moving more, training more than the energy you're consuming in. And we need to optimize, body fat drop and, physical conditioning with quality of calorie, etc., minimizing added sugar, and processed foods. All right. So squash that myth. Just focus on your strength training, which is going to stimulate muscle fiber, obviously force adaptation in the body, and of course allow you to eat more food whilst getting lean. But ignore that. You can turn fat into muscle. It's just not possible. Number 7, cardio. Fasted burns more fat. No, it doesn't. I did this for years. Again, when I was in a massive bodybuilding gym, I love training at the gym, of course, but I used to get up stupidly early to do my fasted cardio. Then I'd go to work and then I'd do my weights afterwards. It was totally impractical looking back. And as a business owner, it's just not needed, And when you're trying to get into your steps, get your sessions in, having the stress of thinking, God, the only way I'm going to be burning body fat is if I'm doing my cardio fasted, creates more overwhelm and going to put another barrier up to whether or not you actually do it. All right. So you don't need to do that. I haven't done fasted cardio in years. And, I'm still now as lean now as when I was in my 20s, when I did that and I trained twice a day. Now I train once a day, max. All right. The only thing I'd recommend with your cardio in terms of doing that fasted is if, again, that was your time when you felt to get your steps in, that was when it just was more likely to happen. So if you're getting friction with doing your steps over the course of the day, then of course factor it in first thing, so at least you can get it done then. All right. Number 8, you need to eat before you lift. Again, I used to be so paranoid in my younger days, as did some of my clients, having spoken to them, that unless they were full before they trained, then they weren't going to be strong. I've moved to a 2 meal a day frequency with like a shake to make sure I hit my protein target the last 2 years, and I've never felt as strong at this body weight, and I no longer eat breakfast. Most business owners, from my experience, you're generally going to operate a more sustainable food management system by eating more of your food in the evening, okay, and then manipulating your food cleverly, maybe from late morning, midday onwards, or if you are having breakfast, having a smaller breakfast, small to medium lunch in terms of your calorie breakdown, and then allowing for more food in the evening. So the reality is it's going to be the food that you eat the day before, which is going to generally dictate how strong or not you are the next day anyway. So you don't need to eat before you lift, especially like a lot of my guys who train in the morning, having a breakfast at 5, 6 in the morning, right, letting that digest and then training, it's just totally impractical, especially when you're trying to get a workout in, maybe see partner, kids before you go to work. It's just not plausible to do both sometimes. So don't worry about eating before you train. As long as you've had a good solid meal the night before, it should make no difference to your strength. It's the total calories across your day, across your week, which is going to dictate your overall performance, strength, and focus, of course. Myth number 9, muscle weighs more than fat. No, it doesn't. 1 kilogram of muscle is exactly the same as 1 kilogram of fat. Just one's going to look softer and bigger, one's going to look harder and more dense. Number 10, build muscle fast and get ripped at the same time. The ultimate clickbait marketing line. It's absolute bollocks. The only way you can build muscle fast and get ripped at the same time is if you're on steroids, right? And I know not many people talk about this, but if you see anyone you follow getting enormously jacked and shredded at the same time over a period of a few months or even a few years, which again, there's some people I know that have changed dramatically very, very quickly, it's drugs, Generally speaking, what I would recommend, if you're carrying a lot of body fat and you don't feel like, you're carrying too much muscle, right? The reality is, to start with, you can build new muscle. Many of our clients do this. They do build muscle and get leaner, especially if they're coming to us untrained, right? Or they're a new beginner to the gym. You can build muscle and get leaner at the same time. But at some point, you have to pick your poison. Am I going to get even leaner, where you need to be in a calorie deficit? Am I going to sort of like maintain and try and be strong as lean as I can at a certain weight? Or am I going to go for putting on muscle size, where you need to be in a calorie surplus? But my advice is if you've never been lean in your life and you want to be lean, focus on a certain calorie deficit first, whilst being effective with your training, with the correct stimulus, different variations in tempo, and trying to be as strong as possible, because you still will like build subtly and maintain to a certain point, especially when you're at the depths of your calorie deficit phase, when you're as lean as you want to be. Okay, but just to manage expectations, like, don't expect, and if any coach tells you this, influencer tells you this, you're going to build loads of muscle and get ripped fast, it's bullshit. It really is. And from my experience, slow and steady wins a game, on either side. If you're trying to drop fat, do it in a subtle deficit, right, whilst trying to be as strong as possible. So you're in just enough of a deficit that you're dropping body fat, but you've still got strength, which is what we do inside Built to Last. And you're trying to mentally train as if you were adding size and training for strength, even though you're in a deficit, just because I think it's very easy to, when you're in a deficit, to tell yourself, I'm in a deficit now, so I'm going to be weak. No, that's a mindset thing. And if you generally find that you're in a deficit and you're getting incredibly weaker week by week, then the deficit's probably too aggressive. Same on the flip side, if you're trying to add muscle, okay, being a subtle calorie surplus because you'll minimize putting on body fat, all right? You'll grow into that physique a lot more and without getting fat. Whereas if you're trying to jump up in calories too quick, your body fat is going to be the key performance indicator as to whether or not you're eating too much food in relation to the way you're training, the way you're moving, all right? And then number 11 is you need supplements, all right? You don't. They're a waste of money if you haven't got a grip on your food first. Diet, food management system, which we like to call it, whatever you want to call it, right? Don't waste your money or get sold the dream by these amazing fat loss supplements, and health supplements. They're a complete waste of money if you haven't got your food down. So spend your money on eating high quality food first before you start dipping your toe into too many supplements. Now, I do take supplements, so do a lot of my clients. I love ZMA. It definitely helps me sleep better. I do take multivitamins, vitamin C, but what precedes that and as a priority is high quality nutrition, because you can get so much of your nutrients, vitamins, iron, etc. from your food, okay? But supplement is just to support that, and especially when you train really, really hard, and especially maybe when you are sleep deprived and you're traveling lots, supplements will help that, but it won't mask over a shit diet, okay? And number 12 is the myth, you need protein shakes. No, you don't. I've been sponsored, obviously, a couple of times, at least in my fitness modeling sponsorship career, blah, blah, blah. And yes, I have took shakes, and I currently take a shake a day as it stands now, whey isolate shake, but that's purely to make sure I'm hitting my protein target, since I've adopted to a sort of a 2 bigger meal frequency with a shake sort of in between, just to make sure I'm hitting my protein target to keep my muscles strong and prevent hunger, etc. But you don't need them, all right? Whenever I've had a bigger meal frequency, say even 3 meals, you want to try and get that from solid food as much as possible, all right? Real food wins a game. Solid food wins a game. And the less you're having to drink your calories, the more you're going to curb hunger, okay? Because quite often when we're reliant on too many shakes, for example, your brain doesn't even register that you're consuming those calories. So then that can promote, again, overeating, which obviously if your goal is fat loss, that's the last thing you want to do, all right? So protein shakes, I'd only recommend them if you're struggling to get your protein target in. Number 13, just coming to the last few here, guys. Number 13, lift heavy with low reps for muscle size and lift light with more reps for cutting. Again, I used to believe this, especially when I first started in the gym and I was reading magazines, etc. There's no such thing as a lighter weight. Like with Inside Built to Last, we vary our rep ranges quite significantly, from anywhere from like power sets from like 5 and 6 reps, even lower during certain periods, right up to 20 rep per exercise within a joint set. We could be doing 50, 60, 70, 80 rep joint sets. But your goal is to still lift as much as possible for that target rep range based on the session's intention. So whether you're doing 15 to 20 reps or you're doing 5 to 6 reps, if your goal is to maximize your return on investment of time and hard work from your sessions, lift as heavy as you can for the target rep range. All right. And this ties in with point 1 where I said about you need to train hard and force physical adaptation in the body for your body to change. So if you are doing a higher rep range, don't mentally think, I need to lift lighter. Of course, the number on the weight is going to be lower than if you were doing a low rep range set, but it's too easy to take the easier option on the low reps sets. Okay, so lift as heavy as you can for whatever your target rep range, because the reality is, in relation to less reps helping you add size and lighter reps, lighter weight with more reps for cutting, coming back to food again, irrelevant of how you're training, if your goal is to add size, you need to be in a calorie surplus. It's going to come down to the quality and the quantity of your calories and the amount of protein you eat, which is going to dictate whether or not you are putting on size, whether you are doing high reps or low reps. Okay, this is where your nutrition, your sleep, your recovery, etc., is going to play a part. Same on the flip side for your cutting. Irrelevant of your rep range and preferred method of training, right? You're not going to cut unless you're in unless you're in a calorie deficit. All right. So make sure whether you lift high reps, low reps, with tension, volume, that you are in a calorie deficit and your food quality and quantity is on point in relation to that. All right. Otherwise, you're literally pissing in the wind, irrelevant of how you're training, if your food isn't on point with respect to your goal. 14, second to last, cheat days. All right. I labeled, eating unhealthy or more relaxed cheat days for a number of years. And again, this is quite controversial and a subjective topic, because I know the legend himself, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, I absolutely love watching, ironically, his cheat days. But I think for 90% of the population who don't have a body like The Rock, or who don't have a body like so many of these influencers and coaches saying cheat days, that is going to have a negative impact on you mentally and your relationship with food by labeling your relaxed meals as cheat days. And it's probably going to wrongly instigate the urge to overeat significantly more calories than what your body needs in relation to your goals. You can dramatically undo like months and months of work if you are eating cheat days too frequently. You can eat thousands of calories in one day. I mean, I was lethal for this. I mean, alongside the men's health covers and being like ripped for so many years. I mean, the cheat days actually, obviously, when I used to label them that many years ago, actually, helped build my following, I suppose. And that was just a bit of naivety at the time. But I used to binge enormously at the weekend, but that was because I was so low in calories during the week. I didn't have control. And for me, if you're saying, I'm having a cheat day, and it's negatively impacting how you look or feel the 2 to 3 days afterwards, or especially the next day where you're feeling bloated, you're feeling tired, feeling stressed, then it serves you no purpose labeling them cheat days, and you've lost control. Because you could be as disciplined as you want with your calories during the week or Monday to Saturday, and then where you're eating, 2,500 calories per day, and then eat, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 calories on a Sunday, which is easily done, right? Or on both days across the weekend. That's going to push your average calories up to absolutely thousands across the week, which if your goal is fat loss, it simply isn't going to happen. Like, numbers matter. If you're not losing weight and you keep having these cheat days or exaggerated cheat meals, then you're being absolutely deluded with the food that you put in your mouth, and it's creating a negative relationship with your food in relation to your mindset. So for me, if you're going to label your relaxed meals cheat days or cheat meals, do it with control and make sure that it isn't followed by guilt. For me, you should be looking at your food across Monday to Sunday as that's just how you eat. And sometimes, you're being a lot stricter, you're eating more real food, minimal added sugar, getting your protein in, tracking your calories, whatever it may be. But you're just having your pockets where you are being a bit more relaxed, but it's done with control. Because all of our clients have relaxed meals. Most of them drink alcohol, right? Myself included. But the power with your food is, right, when you've really got your shit down with your food. It's when, if you are having a relaxed meal or 2 or 3 or 4 over a weekend or a holiday, whatever it is, you're doing it because you've chosen to, from a proactive decision, right, and control of your emotional state, not from a reactive decision where you're filling the void of something that's missing in your life, or trying to pat down a negative emotion, whether it's stress, tired, bored, anxious, habit, right, or overwhelm by eating shit food. Okay, so do everything with control, all right, and just notice how good you feel. And then last point, and this again sort of ties in with point 1, where about training hard, right, especially if your goal is to eat more food and get lean. Ultimately, most people on this earth cannot diet, right? They lack discipline with their food. The amount of times people have said to me when they've joined the Built to Last, I love my training, movement's not an issue, my problem's food, right? Okay, if deep down in your heart you feel like, I never want to be supremely strict with my food, right? I know I need to eat healthy to look a certain way, but I never want to be as hardcore as a bodybuilder, for example, right? Okay. and you want to eat more food and socialize, and you want to enjoy the fruits of your labor, eat at fancy restaurants, I totally get it, right? The number 15, the myth is build a great body with 15-minute workouts. You're never going to be able to do that, eat these fancy restaurants and eat lots of food, if you are deluded enough to think that you're going to do this ticking off 15-minute workouts. It's absolute bullshit, right? As I said, staying lean, right, whilst eating lots of food is a maths-like situation, right? If your goal is to eat more food and get lean, if you're barely moving in your day, or more significantly, you're only doing 15-minute workouts, you're going to be moving less, you're going to be moving less load, so it's a question of energy in versus energy out. You're not going to do that, which is why Inside Built to Last, and what I strongly urge to do with yourself, if, for example, you do want to look great, feel great, but factoring your social life, etc., then you need to train a lot longer than 15 minutes, all right? 45 minutes to an hour with intent. Of course, we have times, myself included, where we have to strip that back, adapt set frequency. But even then, if you're training for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, make sure it's done with intent, plenty of volume, plenty of tension, because that's the only way you're going to be able to eat like plenty of food and get, and more importantly, stay lean. All right? Because if there was like two people right now, right, just to like really pat this down in dummy terms, if there's two people, right, who have the same body, and like they want to eat the same food, right, where it's a mixture of good food, mixture of relaxed food, but the two people who are identical with genetics and makeup, you've got one that's training for 15 minutes during their workouts, and you've got one that's like training for, say, at least 30 minutes or 45 minutes to an hour, right, and they're both training really hard within that time frame. It's not rocket science that the person who's training for slightly longer with a little bit more volume is going to create more output, and it's going to see not only the body change quicker, but it's going to push the threshold of calories up at which you can stay lean. All right. So be very, very careful. Some of these clickbait titles and things people say just to capture your attention and sell you the dream. And as I've said many, many times on social media, right, a lot of the people saying these things, do your research. Do your research on, one, do they actually train like that themselves? Right? Two, do they have unassisted help? Are they on steroids? Right? And look at their results. Do their clients, say the things that they're saying on the marketing front? Because ultimately, the client results don't lie, and their body does not lie. And understand that whatever coach, influencer, etc., maybe you invest in, understand what is their target market, and is it relatable to me, my lifestyle, my physique aspirations, and the level I want to go to. Because there are levels in this game. There's no one's wrong. There are some people who just want to tick over and just basically move their body, 3-4 times a week, no problem, right? Then there are some people who want to be in okay shape. They just no real desire to be incredibly lean, strong, powerful, etc. But they just want to be healthy, but maybe a notch up from, just people who just want to be, do the bare minimum for the health. But I know from my experience, most genuine high performance business leaders and the type of people we work with, they want to genuinely, maximize potential of how they look, how they feel, just like they do with their earnings and their career aspirations and obviously their family values. All right. So do your due diligence before you invest in your coaches. All right. Because there is so much horseshit out there. And that is it. So I know I've gone into greater depths in some of those things, but the beauty of this podcast is it allows me to do that. You can't do that sometimes in, short clips on social media. But as I said, with this podcast, I just want to tell you the absolute fucking truth, all right, about what it takes to get in shape, stay in shape, what it takes to expand your identity, how you see yourself. Because ultimately, and this is why the 3-month and the 6-month journey, which I'll come back to just very quickly, isn't long enough sometimes to expand someone's identity and violate limiting beliefs if that's been controlling them for so many years. Remember, the longer you've been out of shape, and the longer, more importantly, you've saw yourself being out of shape, then the longer it takes to, one, get in shape, but two, mentally condition that new identity, right? Where you truly see yourself when you look in yourself in the mirror as lean, fit, confident, and strong, because that's exactly what we do inside Built to Last. You know, if I look into someone's eyes and they're not like, they don't believe in their mind that they are this person now that is in total control of their health habits, their eating habits, you know, their training frequency and lifestyle management, then I know we've still got some work to do. All right. But yes, it might take slightly longer sometimes, right, to really get to this place. But once you're there, you have that for the rest of your life. And that's what's key. Do you want short-term quick fix where you're consistently yo-yoing and feeling like shit, wasting money? Or do you want to get the job done properly? All right. So thank you so much as always for listening. Please feel free to reach out to me with any comments. As always, you know, I want to answer as many questions as possible in relation to, obviously, some of the things I spoke about today might be slightly controversial, but I'm just telling the truth. Okay. Don't always get it right. But I know the things I've spoke about today are 100% true. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.